I was born in College Point, Queens. They said in College Point, the only way out of College Point was PD, police department, FD, fire department, or OD, overdose. So I decided at the age of 21 to join the police department. I've always had a passion for helping people, and what a great way to start. In the town I grew up in, it was a blue-collar, tough neighborhood, and there was no therapist. I never thought I'd grow up to be a therapist. I was the fifth of 8 kids. My parents didn't have the greatest of marriages. They were fighting all the time. Being a middle child, I guess I was always in a role of trying to mediate and try to kind of help people get along. When I joined the police department, at 21 years old, I was getting sent to families having disputes and yelling and screaming, and I had no idea what to do. I was trying to get them to listen to each other and be nicer, but they just wouldn't do it. And I said to myself, like, why did people do this? Why did they get married? I never thought I'd be one of those people getting married. I thought a bachelor life sounded pretty good, doing whatever I wanted to do. Having to deal every day with courts and arresting people, it was just such a negative drain on my soul. And police officers have a really tough job. I worked in the Bronx. I lived with my partner. We had a fun time. We were really thinking we were making a difference, but just that negativity every day of being around people that don't want to see you, that get annoyed when they're around you, I think it took its toll. So I got a chance to switch over to the fire department. And in the fire departments, it is like a big family. Everybody's got each other's back. Everybody wants to see a firefighter because they're really out to help people. You need your connections and hooks to get to the busiest neighborhoods, right, where people want to do the most work and get into the most exciting kind of energy to make a difference helping people. I had no connections. So in the fire department, they sent me to where? College Point, the place I grew up. One of the slowest firehouses on the job. I got sent for my first year. And I worked hard, and eventually I transferred out of there to 28 truck called the Harlem Hilton in Harlem, New York, which is one of the busiest fire trucks in the world. While I was in the firehouse, I still always had a passion for self-help and understanding people and trying to make that difference. So I decided to go back to school. I went to Iona College to get my master's degree in marriage and family therapy. I never thought I would see firefighters. I didn't want to help them talk about their feelings. Again, I thought I'd work with people outside the fire department 20 years from now. But then 9/11 happened, and in a heartbeat, our whole world changed.
The World Trade Center, tower number 1 is on fire. The whole outside of the building, there was just a huge explosion.
The New York City Fire Department lost 343 firefighters, which to date is the largest loss of emergency personnel in one moment in the history of the world. And just like that, my world changed. So when 9/11 happened, I was actually at home with my wife, and my first son, Christian, was only a couple months old, and I got a phone call to report back to my firehouse in Harlem. I'll never forget that moment because my wife was hysterically crying with my son, and she was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "I don't know what's going on." We turned on the TV. We obviously saw the first tower was hit. And I had to leave her crying and race into the firehouse. We actually commandeered a bus right off the streets, took out all the seats in the bus, put on all our gear, and we drove down as a unit to report to the Trade Center. We got there right after the second tower collapsed. A bunch of the people that were lost that day, I knew were friends of mine, people that I work with. I didn't know. That was the worst thing about those first couple of days. You didn't know who was missing, what was going on. I was assigned those first couple of weeks to work at Ground Zero, to search through voids to try to find, we were hoping to find people alive. It was be one of the weirdest things to crawl into through the rubble, and all of a sudden you'd find rooms that weren't touched. You know, you see people's coffee cups still there. You'd go into elevators and break the doors open, hoping you'd see some people in elevators. And, you know, it was pretty discouraging as the list of people missing got longer and the amount of dead bodies found grew, and we didn't find anybody alive. You know, just coming back here, it brings back all those memories. I could still smell the smoke and different things that I did during those first couple of weeks. You know, that first day was like a scene unlike anything else I've ever seen before. I mean, just the twisted steel and the smoke and the fires burning and the dust everywhere. It really felt like I was walking onto another planet. It was total chaos. The New York City Fire Department is pretty organized. Although you don't know what's going to happen at a fire, there's still a structure in place. And that day, half the leadership was dead and missing too. So it was a day like no other day I've ever experienced before.
Fire vented from at least one floor. Heavy smoke showing over the front and on the top of the building, approximately 90-something floor, okay?
After 9/11, I was working my shifts at the ground zero, and my days off I was volunteering as a peer counselor. And it became apparent after the first couple of months that there was a massive need of help with couples. And the interesting thing was there were thousands of therapists wanting to see the individual firefighters, and nobody wanted to see the couple. What's the difference from seeing one person versus seeing two people? So that was my moment of truth. I was in a room with about 150 therapists, and the director said, all right, we have this need. Somebody's got to see the couples. And there was silence. Not one hand went up in a room. And I remember saying to myself, I don't want to work with firefighters. I don't want to hear about their problems, but nobody here is willing to see them. So it was a moment of truth. I remember struggling, should I not? And what felt like an eternity, all of a sudden I kind of put up a finger. I was like, maybe. And I don't know how this director saw it, but he was like, you, George, you got it. You see the couples. Now my days off, I was seeing 8 to 10 couples screaming, yelling. I had no idea what I was doing. And it was in that atmosphere that I reached out to Sue Johnson. I said, can you help me, please? Send me a tape, a book, anything that can help me help these couples. She said, yes, I'll send you all those things, but better yet, I'll fly out and train you personally. And that changed my life. So some of the lessons learned that I take away from 9/11. As a firefighter, I got a lot of good training on how to turn off my feelings, how to focus on a task at hand, not let fear paralyze me, and take care of business. And we want to be able to hold on to those skill sets. We wouldn't be here as a species if we didn't learn how to be calm under pressure. And yet I think we also have an ethical obligation to help people open up and express their feelings when it's safe to do that. To ask for help, to ask the people who love them the most to come closer to them, especially in times of need. And I know in my experience, in a firehouse, there's a saying that says, everything that you see here stays here. And that is probably appropriate in most settings. But after something like 9/11, when I was experiencing such horror, I couldn't share any of that with my wife. My wife was home, experienced her own helplessness and fear, and she didn't want to burden me with that. And we were both trying to love each other by protecting each other by not having any conversation. And the distance and stress in our relationship started to increase. So I'm really passionate about helping people when the timing is right and they feel safe to be able to actually let their partner in to these places of vulnerability. Most firefighters see the definition of vulnerability as being open to weakness and attack. And it's certainly something they don't want to sign up for. But they don't recognize the cost of not doing vulnerability, which is to put up walls. And these walls, to keep out the bad, also start to keep out the good. And it's not chance that people who suppress their emotions habitually actually start to struggle a lot more with almost anything that we study. So again, I think this mission that I'm embarking, that NICEFT is embarking upon, is really trying to help people be more flexible. Turn off your feelings when that's necessary, but be able to listen to the wisdom for what is an emotion. It's just a signal of your body saying, pay attention, something is happening for better or worse. And we think it's pretty logical to listen to what those emotions are saying. So I used to chase criminals as a New York City police officer. Then I used to run into fires as a New York City firefighter. Now I head towards the chaos and drama of struggling couples and really desperate families. And I'm not scared of going into these places, dark places of sadness and shame and pain, because I know in those places is a doorway to where people need to be helped the most, where we all need love and responsiveness. So that's why I lean in.